Hello and welcome. You're watching NewsX. My name is Gauri Kundalia. Now, despite multiple efforts, Pakistan has reportedly failed to strike an agreement with the International Monetary Fund on extended fund facility that would grant it a $6 billion loan. Now, reports state that the global lender was dissatisfied with the country's macroeconomic framework. Now, in the aftermath, Pakistan's finance minister has extended his visit to the US capital to gain the IMF's nod. Now, the finance minister has also been asked to complete the 6th and 7th reviews to facilitate the approval of the $1 billion tranche under the EFF program. Who will bail Pakistan out from its growing economic crisis is the question. Would Beijing step in to save Imran Khan again is what we're asking. But before that, let me introduce a panel of guests who are joining us on the broadcast. We have Ambassador Baswati Mukherjee, former diplomat. We also have with us senior economists Rajiv Gupta and Sanjay Srivastava. Also on the broadcast with us, a senior journalist, Mr. Sanjay Kapoor. Welcome to the show, everybody. Baswati Mukherjee, I would like to begin with you first, ma'am. IMF has several times actually bailed out Pakistan. What is different this time? Why was it unconvinced and refused? And the talks, of course, were inconclusive.
Well, there have been problems, Gauri, earlier also between Pakistan and IMF because of IMF suspicion that this IMF funding is not going towards developmental priorities, but is actually going for issues like armed forces, preparedness for a so-called war with India, etc., etc. In other words, that the priorities laid down in the MOU are not being fully adhered to. There are also other issues. For example, IMF had expected Pakistan to deliver on a whole host of proposals which are basically intended to revive the economy, increase taxes, put the Pakistani economy back on its feet. Now, IMF medicine is difficult to swallow. Many countries have suffered from it. And usually there are negotiations, prolonged negotiations before these proposals are accepted. The fact that the Pakistan Finance Secretary is stuck in Washington trying to work out these last-minute details demonstrates that the Pakistani government had obviously not taken the IMF MOU and its proposal seriously enough and done the necessary homework to convince the IMF that this time they are serious, they intend to bring economic reform in Pakistan, in the Pakistani economy, and that therefore the conditions for IMF funding, which are stringently respected by the IMF staff, would be respected. It's very clear that there's a big problem here, and I don't think that it can get sorted out in 2-3 days. It says in the news report that he's decided to stay on for 2-3 days. I don't think in 2-3, because the reform suggested a structural reform to reform the Pakistan economy, and structural reform needs government support. So it cannot be done overnight. That is a very big problem.
All right. Rajiv Gupta, then what does this mean for Pakistan's already really struggling economy?
Well, I think it is a known fact that Pakistan economy is almost a failed state in terms of its economics, etc. The debt to GDP ratio is high. I mean, it's 87% at $115 million US, $115 billion US. It's a very, very high debt that they have. And time and again, people have had to bail them out, whether it is IMF, whether it is China, whether it is United Arab Emirates. There are different people who have had to bail it out. So I think it is slowly getting into a debt trap. And it remains to be seen how will they be able to come out of any of this.
All right. Sanjay Srivastava, add on to that, also the fact that a lot of funding goes into terror in Pakistan, and already an economy which is on the brink of collapse.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Gauri. And I would want to say something that it's a very simple illustration of the fact that those who forget history are condemned to repeat it. And if you see the context, yeah, this $6 billion EFF in principle agreement was signed way back in July 2019. And over 39 months, this complete $6 billion was supposed to be served. Out of that, they have only managed to meet, even with lowering of standards, only 2 billion. And we had the same discussion even at NewsX in April earlier this year, when the 1.4 billion was given virtually as a last tranche. We fundamentally, as Ambassador Mukherjee said and as Rajiv has said, if you are not taking care of fiscal prudence, you are not taking care of structural reforms, you are not improving your GDP, but you are actually, no one knows where the money is coming and where, more importantly, where the money is going. So in that kind of a situation, IMF is actually, it is a terribly embarrassing thing that in the 6th round of review, which was supposed to be over by October 8th, it is still going on. And the numbers behind that are very simple. IMF has given them a target by which they have to actually increase taxes to the tune of 525 million Pakistani rupees. As of now, only as a last ditch effort, what they have raised prices in petrol and other commodity, even if that is accepted, will only take them to 300 million. So this is a simple numbers game. You cannot do something which is worth 525 million by making even a attempt of 300 million. So their complete economy is in tatters, and this is not something which they can really solve. For that, first and foremost, they have to stop this terror financing and they have to be held accountable. And India has to raise its voice to get this accountability a much higher prominence.
Right. Sanjay Kapoor, do you see any sort of correlation between what has happened and FATF blacklisting, for example? Do you see blacklisting possible or imminent next?
First of all, I would like to thank you for inviting me. I tend to agree with Ambassador Mukherjee that taking an IMF loan is a very, very difficult task. Requires a great amount of negotiation. Many countries are not comfortable with the conditionalities they impose. Indians, as a country, fought very hard. There were very, very long negotiations to work with the IMF, because IMF has a tendency to impose a kind of conditionalities which are perceived to be anti-poor. They don't want subsidies to be given. They want subsidies to be hacked. They want commodity prices to be increased. In a certain way, they change the very locus of the economy in a manner that seemed to make any democratically elected leader very, very unpopular. So it's a bitter pill that the leaders have to swallow. But when it comes to Pakistani economy, there is a problem of overheating, which Pakistani economist and finance minister keeps talking about. Since last year, when it was minus 0.5%, to June this year, their GDP grew by almost 4.5 to 5%, which is a phenomenal, jump that any economy would see. It was far better than many economies around them. And then they found that there were far more imports than they were able to, deal with, because their revenue receipts were very, very low. And that is where I think the big problem lies. So they could not manage the current account deficit in a manner where they could handle the economy, and that is why they had to go to the IMF. So IMF prescription, which is coming in, they want 6 tranches of that, is going to just throw Mr. Imran Khan under the bus in a certain way, because he has been talking about, he has taken at times a very anti-West stand, and IMF, I can tell you, doesn't happen till the time there is clearance from Washington DC. It is maybe seen to be an independent fund, but IMF, World Bank largely goes with the US State Department policies. So what we can simply read is that US is deeply uncomfortable with the loan at the moment. They want Pakistan to fall in line. Similarly, the FATF, where you asked me this question, where FATF may have contributed or it could get worse, that in my reckoning, is an area which is causing great turmoil in the Pakistani economy. Their funding, their investment all come under a cloud, and they have been trying to, become more mainstream. They're trying to show that they are cleaner, but it's not really helping because their entire operation of managing Afghanistan is all not straight, is all under the carpet. They all do all that kind of stuff. And similarly, the crisis has got aggravated primarily because all the dollars ran away, taken away by Afghans who suddenly found that the economy is in a bad shape. And Iran, to a large extent, which relies on Afghanistan, control of dollars. So there has been a flow of dollars outside Pakistan, outside Afghanistan into Iran. So that is why there is a very, very urgent need on the part of Pakistan to look for dollar support, which will come through these tranches.
Right. Rajiv Gupta, the finance minister of Pakistan, of course, is in the US trying to lobby for more funds. But do you see do you see China now coming in to actually bail out Pakistan?
Well, I think the geopolitical situation is such that China definitely wants to. Of course, it will see its economic this thing and strategic gains in terms of what it makes. But possibility definitely is that in this situation, China kind of steps in and puts Pakistan because they use Pakistan for keeping India engaged in one form or the other. So it kind of does help them if China keeps keeps giving debt to Pakistan. So there might be a possibility that they definitely step in.
Right. Ambassador Mukherjee, how do you see this in the light of what has happened recently where there were accusations against the IMF chief of actually favoring China?
Yes, in fact, it was a very damaging and bruising campaign. And I actually, with due respect to Mr. Rajiv Gupta, I understand that the Chinese actually right now, but he would know better than me being an economist, it has had its own deep problems due to the pandemic and its after effects. And the Chinese actually right now are in no position to give this kind of handout, which is the reason why Pakistan approached the IMF in the first place. What is probably going to happen is that, as has been said earlier by one of my co-panelists, that Imran will have to accept deep structural reforms, which will make him extremely unpopular. Since he is virtually a puppet prime minister and he is propped up with support of small parties which are indebted to the military, with whom he is having right now an ongoing debate about who is going to be the next ISI chief, this is going to make his domestic political situation very precarious. For Imran, who doesn't have the kind of experience of a Nawaz Sharif or a grassroots politician, to push through this kind of unpopular, deep-trenched structural reform of an economy which is being run to the ground through terrorist funding is a virtually impossible task. For China to come in and fund them instead of the IMF is not a realistic proposal. Therefore, we see before us two options for Pakistan. One is they swallow the bitter pill, as Mr. Sanjay Kapoor said, which is going to make him deeply unpopular. It could result in riots in some parts of Pakistan which are very impoverished. Or he tries to do a kind of he's very good at trying to find a middle path, but that is not going to work because, as has been said earlier, the IMF and the World Bank, Bretton Woods institutions, are deeply linked to the US State Department, and they practice a very conservative kind of economics, the kind of economics that Angela Merkel did with the Greeks when their economy was collapsing. She forced them to drink the bitter medicine, and that is what the IMF is known to do. So it is going to be very interesting to watch and see how Imran is going to get out of this one. But if this impact is that Pakistan is forced to go slow on terrorist financing, well, that will be of direct benefit to us. And as has been said, we must continue to agitate this issue in all the UN forums where we are present, because terrorists financing and funding is what has actually led the Pakistan economy to this precarious condition where it is almost on the verge of becoming a failed state.
Right, right. Sanjay Srivastava, where do you stand on this? How do you think Imran will manage to get out of the situation? Will it be China? Will it be through other means?
I think this is a classic situation where he's stuck between a hard rock and a
Rock in the hard place.
Rock and a hard place.
a rock and a hard place. Yes, absolutely. And what he has to realize is that this is something which has been coming over the last 2 years. So just to turn blind, like when the other panelists were speaking, I just quickly saw the Twitter feed, and the suggestion and the unpopularity of the two petroleum price and the electricity rise in Pakistan is really at a crazy level. People are saying, don't increase this, but somehow we will manage this $500 billion Pakistan rupee of deficit which is being done. So it is totally de-linked with what is happening. If I quickly looked up also what happened just as recently in August, September, and in just 2 months, Pakistan's current account deficit has run up by actually 373%. So there are very clearly only two choices. If they are serious, then as Ambassador Mukherjee and Sanjay mentioned, they have to take the bitter pill and move towards a structural reform. The other pill is actually, maybe it may seem like a sweet pill, but actually it will be a poison pill. If they go and further take finance from China, because we can see what is happening in Middle East, in Africa, what is the pushback which China is facing with assets in Sri Lanka and in Southeast Asia. They are going to ask for their pound of flesh many times over. So there is no easy money, and unless they change their way, they are only headed towards a disaster.
Right, right. Fair points. Sanjay Kapoor, there has been lots of talks and there's been chorus about sanctioning Pakistan lately. Do you see this as some sort of a first step towards that for harboring and funding terror?
I have been following this debate for some time about sanctioning Pakistan over links with the Taliban. But the fact of the matter is that US cannot really distance itself with whatever happened in Afghanistan. Whatever their congressmen may decide to say or do, they're living in la la land if they think their country was involved. It was involved. But coming back to the issue of the IMF loan and how it may play out, I get a feeling that US will put pressure on Pakistan to allow the overland route to Afghanistan from India. They will be compelled to make those noises that, look here, you allow the transit route for flow of goods from India to Afghanistan and Central Asia. That is a big thing. If Pakistan can be pressured to do it, that will only help the economy. Because I was listening to the interview of the finance minister in the US in Washington DC, and time and again he talks about geoeconomics, which he says is now Imran Khan is swearing by it, and talked of restoring of ties with India, and how the entire relationship has collapsed and how they're trying to do. So that is one thing that can improve Pakistan's fortunes, and the entire burden is on India whether they accept it or not. India will demand that they stop funding terror, which is a very important demand. And Pakistan, I don't think, is in a position to do very much because it's totally compromised by Rawalpindi in the army.
Right.
And there has to be, I think, we will see many things happen before the loan is sanctioned, because IMF, I remember a couple of years ago, was also asking for the details of the CPEC, how the Chinese are funded, what are the conditionalities, how much money, what is the interest rate, because there were many aspects to the Chinese funds which are buried in opacity, and IMF wanted to know exactly the nature of this funding, so that if IMF is giving money, they should be clear about how it will be paid back. So there are issues, and the only thing that Pakistan can really help can get out of it is leaning on India to some extent.
All right. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. I'd like to thank all our guests for joining us on the broadcast. We slip into a very short break, much more on the other side.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.